experience. So there's that one as well. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Well, welcome to the Bronco. This is a Bronco Badlands. That's the model or style that we're in. We're going to talk about some of the functionality of the Bronco that makes it pretty unique to the industry, or at least I think is changing the industry. We've got our G.O.A.T modes. G.O.A.T is an acronym for go over any terrain. So when I turn this down, take a look up here. First of all, we're going to also pretend that these pods are rocks or boulders in our path. So to change up those G.O.A.T modes, our drive modes, we've got normal driving, eco for fuel efficiency, slippery for snow and ice, mud and ruts, sand for sand dunes, Baja for high-speed desert running, rock crawl. Now, what's nice about that is for a novice, it's going to walk you through the process of transformation. So we're going to engage neutral to engage for low. Note that it highlighted a couple hero switches for us automatically. We'll talk about that one in a second. But I'm going to engage a front locker along with the rear locker. And if you don't know what a locker is, I'll also explain that a little bit later. Love the fact that it gives me an estimated track of where my tire is going to end up. So my tire placement is very critical when we're rock crawling. If I need more detail or more specific, check this out. See my foot sticking out there? I can see left side, right side, front tire, and sidewall, and be able to pretty much know exactly where those tires are and placement on whatever objects that is that I'm trying to drive over. What's also really nice too is when you don't have a passenger, you can see where that right side is without damaging a sidewall or a wheel. Now the button I turned off is a sway bar disconnect. Right now it's engaged. But the problem is whenever we're off-roading, I'd rather not have a sway bar. So Ford came up with a pretty ingenious plan to be able to uncouple that sway bar while in need or on the fly. So that's what happens when you have a sway bar. You kind of get that binding up of the suspension and you find the limit. Now, by releasing that sway bar or the tension on that sway bar, we're able to add more additional wheel travel, or should I say flexibility, to the suspension. That's going to give me more contact points on the ground, more tires on the ground, giving me a lot more capability to go over larger objects because I'll have grip and I'll also have tires on the ground. We're going to get out of that rock crawl mode and go to slippery mode, which is going to be my all-wheel drive function since we're on a high-mu surface like concrete. Engage neutral to disengage for low. Again, common on any four-wheel drive system. And that's the only drive mode that we have to stop and engage neutral is rock crawl. Now, above us, above the track there's a few banners up there talking about the Bronco Off-Roadeo. It's kind of an interesting package. So whenever you buy a new Bronco from Ford, you're invited free of charge to attend a Bronco Off-Roadeo experience. You and a friend or a colleague or a partner, however you want to lay that down, you can attend either Moab, Utah, Las Vegas, Texas, Tennessee, or New Hampshire. You show up, they have Broncos on site for you to drive. You work with an instructor throughout that process. By the end of the day of driving, you feel a lot more confident utilizing some of the features that I'm addressing today, and maybe you feel a little more confident going off-roading because now you've done it. All right, rear locker engage, locking that rear differential so that both those axles in layman's terms are welded together. So even if I have a tire come off the ground, like right there, I still have power to the opposing side. That's what makes a locker so key to off-roading, because you typically don't have all four tires on the ground at one time. Teeter totter seesaw, kind of like we had back in grade school or maybe a public park. Again, back to these cameras, and don't know what I would do without them now. But if I got to drive right up to that edge, typically I would have you stand out there and spot for me and give me an idea how close I am to that edge. But when I can see the leading edge of my bumper and see the trailing edge of that seesaw, I can find that sweet spot pretty easily to get enough weight to trip this teeter totter over the top. Right about there's the sweet spot. So next we have Bronco mount. It's a 40-degree ascent and descent. So 40 degrees up, 40 degrees down. We're going to engage the rear locker for added grip, which we've utilized a couple times before. We're going to engage that camera because without the camera, about halfway up there, all we're going to see is just the ceiling out of the front windshield. So that helps me stay in line with this path. And here we go. All right, we're at the top. I don't need that locker anymore. One thing I really like though is in sand mode, Baja mode, or rock crawl mode within our G.O.A.T modes, this camera stays on at all speeds. So when you're cresting over a sand dune at 30 or 40 mile an hour, you have very little visibility being able to see what's in front of you. You can always look down and glance and see if there's anybody in your path before you proceed. What goes up must come down, so we're on our way down 40 degrees. Ton of control. I always joke with my consumers and say, don't you want to like hang out with me for a little while? I'll give them a little thrill. Off the top. Of course. Well, appreciate it. And
I did actually do the Off-Roadeo event in Tennessee a couple months ago.
oh, sweet.
Yeah, that was fun.
How'd you like it?
It was a lot of fun. They did a really good job.
They do a great job. I love the program, and I love the fact that it's going to give somebody a little more confidence to go off-roading themselves.
For
Take care.
sure. Yes, you too.